That's right, the boat. Yeah, it's been a little while, let me just say that much, but the boat is on fire.
He's here.
And not just that as well, but Mr. Solano, Mark, is the one that everybody's suspecting.
You saw yesterday, you saw how angry Mark is. I think you're both angry. Have you ruled him out?
And this is her starting to suspect him fully.
What about the backpacker? Yes. And where was he? Just tell me.
She already knows, sort of, because she knows about the affair, right? She already knows, sort of. So she just kind of wants someone to confirm it.
With Gemma Fisher. Does Mark know that?
And no, he doesn't know that.
Is that Paul?
How long has he been standing there?
I really like the way they're going with Paul, and I've already spoken about this because it adds a whole nother element. Like, I remember him being a little bit creepy in Broadchurch, and there were like some scenes you're like, what's he doing? The whole thing about the obsession with Beth and being like, you know, being in love with her, that actually explains it so much better, and you're not sitting there like, it's not like a misled confusion, you know, like there's actually a reason to be weirded out by it. But yeah, the other thing as well, guys, is like, I keep talking about how this could differ as a show, it could have a different conclusion. The one thing that keeps holding me back from believing that is that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why they would continue, like, let me just lay this out there. The reason that I'm thinking it's going to end up being the same person again, i.e. Joe Miller, they still haven't investigated him. And this is why I predicted Joe in the earlier seasons, because there are actually more scenes of him being close to the family, so this one hasn't really had that. But there were a lot of scenes sort of showing that Joe was close to the family, was a family friend, they played football together, they did this, that, the other. I don't think they've really showed that. They're leading it again to be like, who's in the shadows? Who hasn't been looked into? Joe, you know?
Also, we're holding a public meeting at the school at noon. Go in the town and where we are, I'll let people ask questions, but none of you needs to be there.
So yeah, the evidence is really looking against Mark now, not, you know, not to arrest him.
I don't understand why there's not more being written.
If there were more in the papers, wouldn't it jog people's memories if that hiker's picture was printed?
We've been talking
We want him to
about
actually reappear. If he sees his face in the papers, what are the chances he reveals himself?
That's so true.
Let us
Like,
handle it.
how do you weigh that up? Do you get the information out there, or do you go sneaky, you know?
I know you got that Solano girl here most weekends, but she can't be much use to you these days.
Wait,
Just
this is
is.
a bit of a different...
Really dragging
Oh, wow. Bro, this is a bit random, you know? What the heck? We didn't get that at all. She was so disconnected from the rest of the characters.
We sent samples off for analysis. Check in the grain.
It's gonna have DNA or something,
Strands
isn't
of
it?
hair.
Hair.
$100.
Basically,
That's about the use
burning
those hair
evidence.
belong to Danny Solano. Starting to show themselves. That's exactly what we want. That's an amateur move. Burning it like that.
Come on, Miller. This guy's got work to do.
That's the thing that I find kind of like interesting, right? Like that, he says it's an amateur move. Like I get why he says that, because when you think about it, right? If you're hiding from enforcement, the smartest thing to do would not be drawing attention to yourself. If you go and put your boat out at sea, of course they're going to be interested. Like, you know, like I find that kind of interesting to think about actually. But yeah, so basically now they've got the boat, evidence is piling up. I'm assuming it's going to be Danny's hair fibers. Now the question is, who does this boat link to? Also, can I just say, I'm expecting it to deviate this episode, or at least next episode.
You said the tents on the beach would come down any day. This is our livelihood you're stomping on.
Gosh
You have to understand every
almighty,
grain of
man.
sand has to be sifted.
So
Every
annoying.
stray hair, every shard of plastic.
Everything needs to be
fingernail,
gone through.
toenail,
See, there's
every
Joe right
piece
there.
of skin has to be tested.
Oh.
A crime scene on a beach.
Does Beth Solano know that you didn't follow up on the information that I gave you?
No, you didn't give me any information. You took a guess.
Yeah. I can't actually remember his plotline too much in Broadchurch and what the process was, whether he was scamming. I remember a scene when, like, they go over to the house and sort of say to Beth, like, he's got a history of manipulating people, and he's got a record or something, and then she sort of goes, oh my god, like, I've been, you know, fooled. Trying to remember, I can't remember how legitimate he was. It's been too long since I watched Broadchurch.
The longer this goes on, the more everyone wants to stick their nose in it. People are getting restless. Too many opinions. I don't like it.
Detective Carver.
Oh, terrific. You two have found each other. That warmeth the heart.
There's something no one found we think the Beth needs to know about.
Here we go again.
We did some
Oh,
digging on
God.
Jack Reinholds from the kayak
That's
show.
funny,
He's lived here
man.
for years, but nobody really knows anything about him. Turns out he was in prison before he moved here.
Oh, they're gonna
He's
follow the
convicted.
same bloody
Sex
plot.
with a minor.
Tell us about your conviction for statutory rape, Jack.
Yeah.
Getting a bit desperate, are we?
Just trying to establish the facts. You didn't mention it when we spoke.
Well, he just needs to
Because
say
it's
it.
got nothing to do with anybody. Well, Ellie, when I first come to town, I should have
Made a little sign, FYI, ex-convict.
Exactly.
No.
And it screws his life, doesn't it? It absolutely screws his life.
What about the night of Danny's death? Where were you then?
I was in on my own reading the book.
Anyone vouch for that?
Only the book.
Which book?
Infinite Jest.
And that's the thing, he's being honest.
Hardly any pictures.
But the media does not drop it. Is he becoming a point of interest? Guys, again, it's moved from Mark to Jack. And from memory, it just goes round and round and round. And the one person who isn't investigated is the one who did it. So I'm keeping my eye out once again for who isn't investigated and what that means. Now that does bring me to my next point. Actually, it's like in Broadchurch, they didn't. Like, they had so many scenes of Joe being close to the family. Like, so many. Like, there was, like, you knew that they were family friends and they were close, and so was Ellie and da-da-da-da. Their kids were close. But they never, ever investigated him. Like, I think I remember the one scene when they did say something was, like, when they were investigating the son. And it just came across a bit like, wait, what? Maybe when they made this, that this was almost like they were trying to fill the plot holes. Because when you think about it, right, in an actual investigation, they would have investigated Joe sooner, or we would have seen it, you know, like that would have happened. I remember thinking, like, it's a bit strange that it's like last minute, they're just like, everything just gets sort of thrown at you. But like, when you like sort of get your suspect list and all that nonsense, he would have been there, he would have showed up. And not to mention as well, Beth, when she wrote that little list of her friends, surely it would have included Joe, if they were that close to the family. Is that why he's not really presenting as that close to the family in the series?
If you have an accusation or any real evidence, let's hear it.
Yep, dead end. Well, dead end. They don't think it is, which is unfortunate.
Look, why don't you let me cook for you guys? Huh? You still gotta eat, right? How many times have you fed us?
The other problem as well is, like, he gets suspected because he was seen here, seen there.
All the work you've been doing, and the extra work.
And then Mark loses it. That's one of the problems with, like, situations like this, eh?
All right, this is offensive. I'm ending this right now.
No, Raymond knew about the boat. He says that he told you.
You didn't listen.
And now they
Let's
arrest
hear
him,
it out,
right?
please.
Well, listen, ready?
Go ahead.
Beth, he has prior convictions for theft and conspiracy to commit fraud.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
That has got nothing to do with this.
Final warning. I see you again, I will lock you up.
Oh!
Why would he do this?
I don't remember this either.
Now, if you want more focus on this case, Beth, it's really gonna come down to you.
Me? Why?
You tell your side of things, who your son really
So
was.
she's manipulating
how it's been
her
you,
for the
everyone
story.
in the state
She
of
doesn't
Gracepoint.
actually care about them, let's be honest.
And you saw Danny at least once a week. Knew him really well.
I wouldn't say really well.
Yeah, you
He
would.
was,
Kind of
good
would,
kid.
man. Kind of
Same as
would.
Tom.
Where
This
were
is-
you on the night of Danny's death?
This is why I think that the whole plot of him doing something would have been kind of cool, you know, like cool. It sounds a bit sadistic. I don't mean like cool like that. It would be almost awesome to see, like, I'm using the wrong words, bloody hell. It would be interesting, I think, to see him basically react or kill out of love or to shock or anger because of something said about Beth specifically, because we've seen that he likes her quite a lot, doesn't he? And now Danny went to a Sunday school, as did Tom. How could that be connected? In Broadchurch, you sort of start to suspect him a little bit, but not really. And then it sort of leads on to this whole, like, there was some issue with a computer, and then there was, like, yeah, there was lots of reasons why he seemed a little bit weird, but you never really fully suspected him. I think that it would be interesting if they did it so that, like, I don't know, like, he did this to get close to Danny, he successfully gets close to Danny, something happens with Danny, he reacts out of anger. I don't know what, I haven't quite pieced around what could happen. That's the thing that's stumping me, is what would you write would happen that would create or elicit that kind of reaction. It's quite complicated to think about. But then he is like an act out of anger because of the whole love situation. I'm trying to think, right, so like, hear me out with this other thing. I started to think about what could the motive be. I always felt like the motive in the last series, it didn't warrant like strangling someone. Like, it's like kind of crazy, right? Like, you have to be really messed up to like do that, hold that sort of for that long. I did sort of think of this other plot recently, which would have been kind of interesting, a way to depict what actually happened could be. And this is sound a bit weird, so just hear me out. This is just a little what if thing that I thought about. Imagine Danny wasn't Mark's child. Imagine Danny was Joe's child. I know that sounds really weird, but the reason I'm saying that is because, like, if Joe knew that, but they kept it from Mark and they kept it from Ellie, he was still trying to get close to Danny, and he was doing it in a way like he wanted, you know how there was the whole arc of their, like, he just liked to hug him and be there with him and hang out with him. Then the plot line, rather than being pedophilic, the plot line would be He literally just wants to see his child. But then you introduce the whole, Danny starts getting a bit weird about it. Danny doesn't know that that's his dad, right? He suspects it to be as quite the pedophilic side of things. He then says that. Then there's the reaction. He then goes and threatens to talk to Beth, and then there's the whole, what do I do? Boom, bat, dead, freak out. It's an instant reaction, regret it, blah, blah, blah. You know how interesting that plot would be? Like, imagine that. Imagine it was literally his child, and it was never about pedophilia. It was about spending time with his child, but not sort of telling him, because obviously that would be against what Beth and him promised, and maybe it was like, you know, maybe it was just this whole arc of keeping the families together. I don't know. You know how cool? I think that would have been an interesting plot, you know.
Were you up wandering on that Thursday night?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
And then doesn't someone remember seeing like a light on at that time or something?
Point, but I don't remember.
Was there a plot line? Someone like looked up on the beach and they could see like, I don't know, man.
Susan or Ruth? Came across something written about you from several years back under a different name.
Somebody must have written it wrong.
Was Mark your first boyfriend?
No.
You are my strength and shield.
Wasn't.
My heart.
That's what I'm theorizing. Imagine.
May wisdom save me from false choices.
It was someone else's baby or something like that, or Chloe was.
Do you have a conviction for statutory rape?
You see, he does. Oh. We didn't see that either, did we?
You've changed. You're not the
What's
same
he want?
person you were a decent kid once.
Oh. Dude.
Hello.
Hi.
Please come in.
I've been waiting for this scene.
Oh.
Wait, this is the scene. This is the scene. Oh my god.
Suit.
This is the scene where I think I'll be able to tell.
No,
or not.
it's...
I didn't know what to choose, so I got them all. It's been a while since I had dinner with
Well, thank
I
you.
got them all.
Thank you.
I just want to
You think
see
you can
this
solve
guy.
this case?
Joe,
You see
Absolutely.
lines like that.
Good.
I'm gonna...
Well, can I just say, like, one thing? I didn't really feel as convincing as Broadchurch. Like, in Broadchurch, you got this scene, they're, like, sitting down. Ellie walks out. He sort of looks at Joe, at Alec, and sort of just goes, do you think you're going to solve this case? And he just looks at him for a bit, and he goes, of course. Or I don't know what he says. But it's a way more intense scene. This is way more sped up. But the point is, it's just, like, curiosity like that. Like, do you think you're going to solve this case? Like, I mean, I'm sure he does, you know? It's such a weird question to ask. I really like my theory that I've just told you about him potentially being someone else's father. And he had a thing with Beth. I actually think that would be a better plot line to sort of hint towards pedophilia, but it's actually not, right? There's, like in Broadchurch, there was no sexual contact, there was none of that stuff whatsoever. And at the end, they sort of said, like, maybe it was developing into something horrible they didn't know yet. He had an alcohol problem, right?
Does she like me? Sorry? Does she like
Yeah?
working with me? I think I irritate her.
Oh, she hasn't mentioned anything.
You're a terrible liar.
Yeah.
You're a terrible boss.
I knew it.
To be fair, when you think about when you're going to write a show, if you want to draw attention away from a certain person, you don't want to have them in the spotlight too much. So maybe that was tactical as well. Maybe that was a tactical way of going, look, shorten these scenes, have them to feel less consequential, less, you know, sort of suspicious, and then when it happens, it's a bigger shock. Because when I feel like when I watch these shows, like, I end up being suspicious of everyone. Like, literally, like, when I will suspect every single person. That's one reason why I love The Killing. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but someone ends up being the killer in The Killing, and I remember just thinking, like, oh my god, I never suspected this person, and it was more shocked than I think I'd been in a long time. That's what I think this may have been trying to achieve. Which, to be fair, if I hadn't seen Broadchurch, I may have found that better. But because I'm looking at it retrospectively, and I'm looking at which one feels like a better show, maybe there's bias. Maybe it's... I don't know, that's the problem. I can't justify which one's better but because I watched one before the other. It doesn't make sense. That's why I want so many people that have seen this first, if you have, to let me know whether you preferred it.
Why are you so interested in me?
Whoa. Bro, I would be shutting my door.
I know men who'd rape you.
Yeah, so it is the same bloody line. For goodness sakes, man. I remember feeling so disgusted by that line when I watched it. Wait, hold on a second. Doesn't he fall and slip on his bathroom floor or something? And his blood? And I think that... But I remember the episode ending like that. He takes something and then he falls and then boom. Yeah, see ya? Whoa.
Oh, I was looking for next of kin in the ambulance. Couldn't find any,
so I told them I was your wife.
You did what?
I'm coming with you.
They want you to stay.
I don't care. What's this?
I don't care. See you later.
Yesterday I saw Owen talking to Jack Reinhold.
Yeah, and then he goes after Jack. That's the thing that sucks about cases like this, eh? One piece of information seen by one person can lead to something catastrophic.
No.
Oh, hey.
Food's almost done.
Oh, that's right, she still needs to speak to him about the affair thing. Just watching each other, man. I'm starting to like my theory of the potential of that not being Mark's son now. Unless that's literally what happened in Broadchurch and I just somehow completely forgot it. Even though I don't think that's what happened. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Hey, Beth, is Mark here? And Mark?
He didn't do it. Oh, I remember the scene as well. Whatever they're about to say about me, it's not me.
I was in one of the kayaks and I found something. Found this.
The cell phone!
That's Daddy's
Oh!
He must have left it.
Wait, hold on. Was it Jack that brought the phone in the last series?
Mark, Beth, they're gonna say things about me, and none of it's true.
I remember that line. I remember that
Please,
too.
you gotta believe me.
No, wait, hey, stop it!
Wow. Of course people are taking photos outside. Oh. Oh, shoot. You know what I find funny though? Let me just say this much. I know I paused it like a million times, but let me just say this. Like, he sits there and goes, what the hell, man? Like, that's the line. What the hell, man? It's like, you were perched in his garden bed with your lens pointed through his window. You're surprised that he smashed your camera? But yeah, I remember this scene quite clearly because, like, I remember Jack turning up and being like, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. But, like, of course, Mark isn't going to really believe that immediately. Of course he isn't, because he's looking for an answer. And people like to jump to the easiest, quickest solution and conclusion. That's just a fact of human biology. We like to do it. So that's what's crazy, is, like, it's not him. But, of course, he's being made it out. Well, it's being made out that it is. Oh, maybe not then. I thought there was, like, a...
I know about you and Gemma Fisher.
She does! Oh! Wow.
Mark, Chloe, and I want to say thank you to the Gracepoint police and to the community.
But they weren't even that suspicious, hey? There was like a couple photos that were like them like in swimsuits or something, wasn't there? Like I said, I refuse to accept that he's got something to do with it. I refuse. I simply refuse. Okay guys, that is episode 5 done and dusted of Gracepoint. We're probably gonna, I think I will watch episode 6 now, guys, just so I can get it out of the way, and hopefully it deviates a bit. But anyway, about the episode, once again, pretty much scene for scene in a lot of aspects in comparison to Broadchurch. Very, very similar. We're following the whole plot. We've sort of deviated from the Mark plot now. We sort of know where he was, what he was doing. And at this point, you sort of start introducing the whole like conflict between Beth and Mark, and the fact that he was having an affair. That comes into play. But the intention now, same as Broadchurch, it shifts to Jack. Now, if it's anything like Broadchurch, he's got nothing to do with it. He's quite literally a victim of circumstance. And yeah, he has a history, but it's not as bad as it looks. But from memory, it doesn't lead anywhere good. Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much detail about those plot lines, guys, because I don't think I need to. The biggest thing I want to talk about, if you did skip through that reaction, or if you are just watching for my little analysis at the end, is my new theory. It's less of a theory. I like, how do I describe this? I prefer it because I prefer this sort of idea because I think it sort of adds a whole new set of elements to it, and that is the idea that Danny isn't Mark's child. And the reason I go into that is because, like, it would then, rather than sort of just shifting the idea that Joe had some sort of pedophilic interest, because in Broadchurch he didn't actually do anything sexual, like, it hadn't manifested fully yet. Now, if Gracepoint were to follow the plot line that Danny was actually his child, the thing that I find crazy about that, right, is that would then explain why he was wanting to see him alone and separated, and why it was suspicious, because obviously I don't imagine Mark and Ellie would know at that point that that was the situation that had gone on, and then that would explain why he was hanging out with him. That would explain all the hugs and the time spent and all that sort of stuff. And now the part where it gets messy is the part when Danny doesn't know it's his father. To Danny, this very well is just him getting paid to hang out with Joe, and it comes across as kind of creepy. Now, that would then explain why when Danny said that thing about Joe, basically being sort of accusing him of being a pedophile, pretty much, right? Sort of saying, why don't you do this to your own son? That would then explain the rage. Obviously, if he then sort of said, I'm going to go and tell my parents that you're doing this to me, blah, 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 that would then incite a rage and wanting him to make, to get him to stop. And then the thing I like most about that theory is not only does that then show you why he's got excessive remorse for this child, why he displayed his body the way he did, why he still spent time around the family, why all of that continues to happen, is because it was literally, someone that he cared about. I think that plotline or that story would have been absolutely phenomenal. It would have made it so much more, I think it would have made it a much deeper reason as to why he did it. But yeah, and then also, not to mention the conflict it would have caused after the fact between the families, Mark and Beth, Mark and Joe, Beth and Ellie, I think it would have been really, really interesting to see that. But whether that's a little bit too dramatic, or whether I'm just sort of maybe over-analysing, or maybe thinking that maybe my brain's going a little bit too overdrive into my sort of plot developments. But the point is now we've got a situation where we're sort of, I argue that we're at square one in the sense that we're looking for the wrong person. We're not even looking in the right direction, which is very similar to what Broadchurch did. But anyway, that is what I thought could potentially be a good plot line, guys. But at the end of the day, it could very well just be picture for picture for the rest of the season. Could have exactly the same reason why he did it, blah de blah de blah. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for new content every single week. And let me know down below what you thought of this episode, and I'll be happy to do some discussion going. Oh, and also, I did those the wrong way around. Follow the Instagram, guys. All updates about episodes and stuff going on in my life and the channel, all go onto that Instagram, British Chat with 2 P's. I'll leave the link down there, guys. But yeah, guys, anyway, I'm going to leave that there. I hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. As ever, this has been your boy, British Chat. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.
I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capped in space. I won't stop till I hear him say, oh, oh.